Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever episode of the Interpretation Station. When I say ladies and gentlemen, it probably means one person who's watching this, but never mind. This is a channel for conference interpreters, specifically. My name is Roland. I'm a conference interpreter Ben, and I'm here to offer my services to anybody who wants to improve their knowledge and skills at conference interpreting. The layout of what I'm going to do on my channel is I'm going to be going through statements delivered wherever it may be, provided by you, the viewer. You provide me with a statement, your attempt at it, your rendition of it, and I take you through it, offering you tips on the way. You know, telling you what you did well, telling you what you didn't do so well. And hopefully you'll find it useful, and that you'll submit your work to me, and I can do this for you. So for our first ever episode, we are going to be doing. So I've been given something by a student of mine I've worked with. He's called Will. So he's still studying. He's studying interpretation at university. He's almost graduated. So he's got very good potential to be a very good interpreter. He's sent me a statement that he's prepared by the Democratic Republic of Congo, speaking to the Human Rights Council. Actually, if you look here, I can show you. Statement by Her Excellency, the Human Rights Minister of the Democratic Republic of Congo, Marie-Ange Mushobekwa, on the occasion of the 37th regular session of the Human Rights Council on the 27th of February 2018. So, before we start, it's always good to just have a, if you're sort of thrown into this kind of meeting without too much warning, it's always a good idea to begin by imagining what the speaker might say, just to give yourself a bit of preparation. What do you know about the Democratic Republic of Congo, otherwise known as the DRC, by the way? It's a pretty unstable country. It's been riven by internal conflict, civil wars for decades. Capital is Kinshasa. It's also interesting, a bit of general knowledge for you. The two closest capitals anywhere in the world are Kinshasa and Brazzaville in the Republic of Congo. So one is on they're both on the Congo River. One's on the south bank, the other's on the north bank. They're just a ferry ride away. And I do believe they are the two closest capitals in the world. Kinshasa and Brazzaville. Now, the conflict in Congo these days tends to be focused in the east of the country. You've got the problem areas are places like the Kasai province, Goma out in the east, very close to the border with Rwanda, North Kivu, South Kivu. So DRC is very rich in minerals, various precious metals, lots of gold there. So I think you're going to find that, this is the Human Rights Minister, so you're probably going to be probably going to be hearing about various human rights violations that have taken place, maybe abductions, for example, kidnappings. What else can we think of along those lines? Enforced disappearance. It's going to be quite a lot of nasty stuff going on there. So without any further ado, let's get started. So I'm going to play to you what Will has done. I'll sort of play little segments, and then I'll comment on what he's done and give my opinion. So without any further ado, let's get started.
High Commissioner for Human Rights, ladies and gentlemen, This is a great honor for me to take the floor from this podium on behalf of the Democratic Republic of Congo's government.
Okay, so that's a nice start. It's a tribune, podium. It's a good word. You say a rostrum, but generally at the UN at any rate, we tend to say the podium.
For the first time as a member of the Human Rights Council at the United Nations. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank, on behalf of the President of the DRC, Joseph Kabila, all member states of the United Nations who placed their confidence in our country, electing us as a member of the Human Rights Council for the first time in its existence.
Okay, so this is all nice so far. So this is back in 2018, DRC had just been elected as a new member of the Human Rights Council. One little thing there, he corrects some, he thanks all the member states of the UN, the United Nations. You don't need to make those corrections. Just keep, UN, you don't need to give it the full name the first time. Everyone knows who the UN is. Often I have a thing with the first time with certain acronyms that you should give the full name. And with most acronyms, I'm like that. And then after that, you give them just the shortened version. But I mean, with the UN, I think everyone knows who the UN is. Anyway, carrying on.
We cannot ignore this mark of confidence. And I promise you that we will show ourselves to be worthy of this confidence, doing all that we can to improve the situation of human rights every day in the DRC.
Okay, so he's saying confidence a lot here, Will, which is fine. The trust is perhaps this mark of trust. You know, I'm nitpicking here. He says we cannot. Oh, this is good. Nous ne pouvons rester indifférents. That's good. Way of cutting it out. We cannot ignore this mark of confidence. He said. You know, in English we can say we cannot remain indifferent. That's good.
Some countries opposed our candidacy for their own personal reasons. But the will of the majority of the member states of the United Nations was reflected at the ballot box, and all countries should respect this.
Okay. Look down here. Some countries oppose the candidacy of the DRC. Okay, for reasons that are their own. That's good. That's good. Okay, so he's saying like in the United Nations. I mean, this, the woman, the minister, she speaks quite fast, so I think you don't need to worry too much. You know, just say the UN. This is nice. À travers les urnes. That's an important phrase that you hear a lot. At the ballot box, it's a very high register. And tout le monde doit s'y plier. Everyone must abide by that. That's what it refers to the will.
This is therefore truly global democracy. To the skeptical countries, we would say, don't be concerned by the presence of the Democratic Republic of Congo at the Human Rights Council in the UN. We are not.
Okay, he's saying Will's saying the UN a bit too much. Everyone knows by this time Human Rights Council, au Conseil des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme. You can just say the council. Everyone knows what we're talking about, so don't worry too much about repeating it every time. De ne pas avoir peur, not to be concerned. Yeah, don't be afraid. Maybe a bit stronger about being concerned. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of having the DRC, the Human Rights Council.
Raging wolves wishing to destroy all in our way. We are a country just like any other, with its strengths and weaknesses in the field of human rights.
Ok, nous ne sommes pas des loups méchants, raging wolves, naughty wolves. Yeah, you got to be careful with these sort of things, what you say here, but yeah, raging wolves, why not? Destroying everything in their path. You could say tout ravage, tout à leur passage. what might we say in English for loup méchant? What's a more natural thing? We're not wild animals, maybe. We're not wild animals. That's an idea.
We are a young democracy, ready to improve that which needs to be improved and correct that which needs to be corrected. When I left Kinshasa, the President of the Republic said to me, and I quote, "Madam Minister, say to the High Commissioner that I personally support all the work that you are doing together to protect and to promote human rights in our country. As for myself, I am a defender of human rights. If I wasn't, your ministry would not exist, and no collaboration would be possible with the UN in this field."
Okay, so this is some of these. Sometimes these quotes can be a bit tricky, but Will handles this one nicely. The president that you said, the president of the republic, and that's a nice, you could just say the president, but I think I was told once in my early days, when you're talking about like with France, le président de la République, it's nice to actually, sometimes they want to hear the full thing, the president of the republic. So maybe you can give maybe it's okay with the Congolese president, give him the president of the republic the first time, and then later you can just call him the president. Another interesting expression here, défenseur des droits de l'homme. So human rights defender, human rights activist. I tend to go with defender. I mean, that tends to be, at the UN, that seems to be the most popular way of doing that word, just a defender.
Unquote.
Unquote, fin de citation. Again, these little things, if you're a beginner, if you're early in your career, these things might not come naturally. So when you give a quote, you say, or you can say at the end, once you've given the quote, you say quote, unquote. So that's nice what Will's done there. Fin de citation, unquote.
So therefore, the Democratic Republic of Congo completely freely adheres to all the legal international instruments for human rights, and we intend to respect them.
Okay. Juridique, legal. That can cause problems early on for beginners as well. Juridique, just legal, regional, international instruments. Okay, la défense des droits humains, des droits de l'homme. So protection, when you talk about défense des droits de l'homme, it tends to be the protection of human rights. Note that in French, by the way, you can have droits humains or droits de l'homme. They still use both. Because I believe originally, when the first Bill of Rights, anything to do with human rights, was drawn up, it was called, I think, on the rights of man, capital M. And I think in French, that name still gets used quite a lot. In French, you'll hear either or droits de l'homme or droits humains.
President, High Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen, 2018 is an electoral year in the DRC. The Independent Electoral Commission has published the electoral calendar, and they published it in November 2017. The two houses in Parliament voted.
Okay, so the National Electoral Commission, which you'll see in a minute, its acronym is CENI. You'll see it here actually in the next sentence. I'll be interested to see what actually Will does with that, because it's perfectly fine actually. You can use the CENI when you refer to an electoral commission in one of these African countries or wherever, in France, you can just call them the CENI. Notice what he did with the dates. He didn't quite catch the 5th of November. It's Guy Fawkes Day, eh? There you go. But he got the month and the year, so it's all about prioritizing. The most important thing is probably the year. If you can get the year, go for the month, and the least important is the day.
On the electoral calendar, and the president promulgated the law on the 25th of November 2017.
24th of December, one day out. Okay, promulgated. You can say that in English. That word does exist, doesn't it? But I perhaps would prefer to go with something like ratified it or enacted it. Yeah, one of those two, I think. But promulgated is okay.
The Commission has started voter registration in all territories in the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Okay, so he said the commission. I mean, that's a perfectly decent way of doing it. When you have a name of a long commission, and then when you refer back to it, you just say the commission, or if it's the Human Rights Council, the council. But just know that you can just mirror the French. You can just say the CENI.
Over the next session, ending in March 2018, the Parliament should vote on the law regarding the resharing out of redistribution of electoral seats.
Small point here to pick out. Devrait voter. I think it's here is due to vote. Should vote. Yeah. It's more is due to vote.
So therefore the electoral machine is up and running and nothing can stop it. The presidential, legislative, national and provincial elections will indeed take place on the 23rd of December 2018.
That's very nice. Bel et bien, they will indeed take place on the 23rd of December. That's good.
And all those who wish to support democracy should work to help these elections go ahead, allowing the Congolese people to choose their own leaders without foreign interference. However,
that's right. Okay, they should prepare. They should prepare and participate to allow the Congolese people to choose themselves their leaders without foreign interference. That's right. That's always a big thing, you know. And generally with these countries, that the people of these countries themselves should own the process, so they alone should be the ones who choose without foreign interference. Okay, so moving swiftly on. Sorry, wife and daughter got back there. Apparently I've been told to put my collar down. That's better. Where are we now? Okay.
the government of the DRC regrets that this process has been marred by unrest. Protests or
That's very nice. That's very nice. Émaillé des turbulences, marred by unrest, marred by turmoil. You could say another good synonym, but marred is very good for émaillé.
organised by a fringe of the Catholic laymen, supported by the Catholic Church itself, have unfortunately led to deaths and injuries among.
Yeah, there's some tricky stuff coming up here. Les laïcs catholiques, yeah, so he said the Catholic laymen, the Catholic laity, supported by the Catholic Church, led to deaths and injuries. I suppose that could all be covered by casualties if you were in a hurry. Des morts et des blessés. You say casualties, victims.
The victims, there are members of civil society, opposition and majority political party members, and also members of the security forces. I wish to convey my deepest condolences to all those affected by this and their families.
This is a tough bit, and I think Will does that pretty nicely, especially this last sentence. I think he said, I wish, je m'incline devant les mémoires de ceux qui ont décédé compatir. So he says, my condolences go to I send my condolences to those who died, and what other things can we say here in English? For example, our hearts go out to the families. You need to think of something natural that you would say in English for this sort of thing. I mean, you could just, if you say literally, I bow before the memories of those who died. Sounds a bit awkward in English. So yeah, I send my condolences. Our hearts go out, and this tout tendance confondu. So that means on all sides, the victims on all sides.
The 1st of January 2018 saw the launch of a mixed inquiry involving the Human Rights Ministry, the Justice Ministry, the UN Joint Bureau, NGOs in the field of human rights, also a member of the African Union responsible for human rights.
Okay, some tricky little things that we'll get trips up a little bit on here. A commission d'enquête mixte is probably like a joint investigation commission, for example, involving, you can say, just made up of members. Oh, now what would we call these ministries? Okay, Ministry of Human Rights, Justice, the National Human Rights Commission, Human Rights NGOs, des ONG de défense des droits humains. Sometimes you can filter some of these unnecessary words here. For example, this défense des droits. Okay, just Human Rights NGO. This is the Bureau Conjoint des Nations Unies aux Droits de l'Homme. Okay, that's the UN Joint Office on Human Rights. And then what do we have? A member of de la cellule de l'Union Africaine, a member of the African Union cell responsible for human rights. So sometimes when this happens, when you have long lists of organizations or entities, and they give them the full names in the source language, try not to, don't let it throw you off. Just listen out for the key words. You can just say the Human Rights Ministry. There's lots of things you can filter out. Or the Ministry of Human Rights, of Justice, Human Rights Commission, Human Rights NGOs. Okay, filter out the Défense, Bureau Conjoint des Nations Unies aux Droits de l'Homme, UN Joint Human Rights Office. Membre de la cellule de l'Union africaine chargée des droits de l'homme et des peuples, the member of the AU, call the African Union the AU cell on human rights. Just you find this in many. You can find this with the people's titles as well in various government departments. They have these sort of long. These long names and titles, laws, the names of laws. Always look when they're giving out the names of those laws, just to trim out the words that you don't need. There's a lot of sort of words that are superfluous that you can cut out. It's something you don't want to get. You don't want to let that sort of thing make you then miss something of the bit of the next sentence, which is perhaps more important. It's just don't let yourself be fazed by those sort of long names. Okay, carrying on.
This commission is called the CEM 3121, and it is responsible for collecting data and interviewing the witnesses and victims of the action that took place in December 2017 and January 2018. The same.
So I don't know. I get the impression here that Will is a bit hurried because he sort of got tripped up trying to put in all those names of all those various commissions and things. So he catches up pretty well. But victime des manifestations. So that's an important word. Protests or demonstrations.
Commission will lead inquiries into the action of the 25th of February 2018, which unfortunately led to 2 deaths and many injuries.
Just this bit here, the lady adds a sentence that's not actually in the original written script. he uses actions. He suddenly got hung up over this word actions for manifestation actions, événement actions. So.
At the end of our professional and objective inquiries, the conclusions will be sent to the Justice Ministry by the end of next week. This ministry will then instruct the relevant judicial bodies to press charges against these suspects.
Okay, a couple of nice things here. Yeah, à l'issue de, that's a very important phrase, okay? At the end of following our investigations, pursuant to, okay, conclusion will be sent to the Ministry of Justice by next week, which in turn will, okay, they instruct les instances judiciaires compétentes. I think you could say the competent judicial authorities, perhaps. And we have this engager des poursuites. So I think in British English, you know, to press charges, bring charges against les présumés coupables. We could just say the suspects. What did Will actually say? I forget now.
Rest assured that appropriate sanctions.
Let me just see what Will said in the original, in his.
Judicial bodies to press charges against these suspects.
Very good. He says the suspects. Excellent. Okay.
Rest assured that appropriate sanctions will be handed down to the perpetrators of these grave violations of human rights. However,
a couple of things here. Les auteurs, perpetrators. I think he said that. It's very good. Now you'll often hear the appropriate sanctions will be, you can just say, would be taken against the authors, the perpetrators rather. Atteinte et violation. You often hear these two actually go together. And okay, violations is easy enough, obviously. Atteinte. So in the past, I'd always, so as not to have to say violations, I'd say affronts. And that's been my tactic until literally about a month ago. And I know I realize that, generally speaking, atteinte seems in English to go, the best sort of like-for-like word is abuse, human rights violations and abuses. So I would forget about affront, and I would say abuses when you hear atteinte. Okay.
However, it would be remiss of me to not bring up a few matters of interest from this podium at the Human Rights Council. Yeah.
Okay, there's a couple of things here that I'll just pick up. It would be remiss of me not to do something. It depends it depends how you're feeling in the middle of a statement. If you've still got plenty of energy, I says, okay, go for it. It'd be remiss of me not to do something. But to me, it always seems a bit of a mouthful, that thing. As I say, if you're in a hurry, I would stick to something like, I must raise, and then you cut out all that. You cut all those unnecessary words. But I cannot stop myself from raising. And then, okay, so ce Conseil des Nations Unies aux droits de l'homme. So Will saying again, he's given the full name, the United Nations Human Rights Council. Far too many words. Just before this council, you can just finish it there. Just before this council, because we know where we are, so we don't need to repeat it every time. Even if she does, if she does, it's up to her, but we don't need to. Moving swiftly on then.
Yes, freedom to protest, freedom of opinion, and freedom of religious beliefs, expressing religious beliefs, are part of the Democratic Republic of Congo's constitution. But this...
A couple of things. So yeah, the main thing here, Will, is he's he's saying the Democratic Republic of Congo. You don't need to give it the full name. Just say DRC, Constitution of the DRC. Don't feel you have to always repeat the full name. It's tempting at sometimes. I know you feel you ought to because the speaker is, but really you don't. It's better that you make sure you focus on getting the exact meaning rather than always mirroring the way she calls certain things. Some of these freedoms, these are important freedoms. Okay, liberté de manifester, la liberté d'opinion et de culte. Okay, the second two are fairly straightforward. Liberté d'opinion, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion, liberté de culte. This first one, liberté de manifester, I'm not 100% certain for that one. Freedom of protest, I think, is perhaps closest. So often you also have freedom of association, freedom of assembly. You hear more, but again, this liberté de manifester comes up. So yeah, freedom of protest, perhaps.
Must be done in strict accordance with public order, just as in any other country. President, High Commissioner, ladies and gentlemen.
Quick tip for you here, just in case. As I say, if you're in the middle of a statement and you're really knackered, you're really suffering, when the speaker breaks off to give the Monsieur Président, Monsieur le Commissaire, Excellence, sometimes I just don't even bother. I just take a couple of deep breaths when they're saying all that, because you don't need it. If you're doing fine, then say it, sure. But just as a tip, if you're really struggling, that can often be a good moment to just get your breath back and just sort of recompose.
What should we do when the organisers of these marches choose over 100 Catholic parishes spread across the city of Kinshasa as the starting point for their marches, particularly when Kinshasa is a city of over 10 million inhabitants?
Okay, so nice tactics there with the numbers. Okay, they choisissent les 167 paroisses catholiques. Okay, so you didn't catch the 67. Okay, over 100. That's perfectly legitimate way to do it. There's lots of detail coming up in this paragraph, so this is one of the toughest parts of this.
What should we do when the organisers of these marches do not tell the authorities of their itinerary, which makes the containment of these marches much harder for the security forces?
This is tough. Lots of rhetorical questions in this bit. Lots of rhetorical questions. What to do when they organise these marches? Yeah, don't indicate any any itinerary to these city authorities. Okay, l'encadrement de ces marches. He said the containment of these marches, which isn't a bad try. It's not a bad try. I think in the UK we talk about the policing of such, how these marches are policed. So it's always a good word to have in your mind when talking about demonstrations and protests, how those marches were policed. Next question.
What should we do when we see some young men who are bare-chested, wearing red bandanas on their head, branding placards with violent political slogans on them, coming into churches and whistling in the middle of services?
Again, this is tough, but he does it pretty well. But I think he just quite... tenant des banderoles, I think he was looking for the word brandishing. Brandishing placards, maybe des banderoles, with violent political... So what to do when we see some bare-chested youngsters with red bandanas around their head, brandishing placards with violent political messages in churches, usant des sifflets en plein culte. As he said, so you're blowing whistles in the middle of a service, en plein culte. Okay, let's see the next question, how he deals with that.
What should we do when faithful Catholic believers who do not share the same political convictions as their neighbors?
Il y a des fidèles catholiques. So fidèle here is a noun, actually. So what we do in certain Catholic worshippers. Okay, members of the flock, as it were. Yeah, so certain Catholic worshippers.
Unable to go to Mass, concerned of being attacked, as some priests are using their sermons to drum up these beliefs. As a ministry of...
Yeah, this is tricky, this is tricky. How would I do it, perhaps? This is what to do when certain Catholic worshippers who don't share the same opinions or political convictions as those who are close to a fringe of the opposition can't freely go to Mass. Confesser librement leur foi. So in French they say confesser leur foi. I think in English we talk about professing one's faith. So they can't freely profess their faith sans avoir crainte d'être lynché, without fear of being lynched, parce que certains prêtres les livrent à travers leur discours à la vindicte populaire, because certain priests, through their statements, basically scapegoat them, I think. Les livres à la vindicte populaire. I think they're scapegoating them. I'm going to check that, though. Okay, so I did check this, and I have read this text before, so I'm gonna let you into secret. I didn't know it the first time, but it is to turn them into scapegoats. All right, so that's tricky. It's a very tricky little section. Okay, let's carry on.
Of human rights, I must say that it does embarrass me. Yes, I recognize the fact that
A bit of a false friend here in French. Je suis embarrassé. Doesn't always mean embarrassed in English. In fact, usually it's something that's a slightly different nuance. It puts me in something of a bind, maybe we would say. As human rights minister, I'm rather perturbed by this. I don't think it's quite the same idea as in English of embarrassment. You could get away. I mean, you can get away with it. But I think when you're dans un embarras, you're in a bind.
religious spaces should not be disrespected neither by security forces, neither by protesters of the opposition with their bare chests and red bandanas whistling in front of the cross of Jesus Christ.
Yeah, this is tricky again. She's really going into some very descriptive parts here. It goes into lots of detail. So yeah, I recognize that in no case lieux de culte, places of worship, should not be profaned. What other words we have in English? Should not be profane, should not be this all but sacrilege. Profaned is good. Either by indisciplined elements of the law and order, force de l'ordre, law enforcement, ni par certains manifestants proches de l'opposition, or as Will said, bare-chested members of the opposition with their red bandanas on their head, whistling in front of the cross. See how the rest of this paragraph goes.
Neither by members of the majority party with red hats on, creating threats in their parish. All of these acts.
Yeah, you get it's close. So the proches d'un parti, you could see, he says members of the majority party. I think it's more likely supporters if you say the proches. You got it here, les proches d'un parti, les proches de l'opposition. So it's supporters, really. They're wearing the red berets. Scandon is to chant. Chanting threats during dans la cour d'une paroisse, I guess, in the middle of a service.
Are worthy of condemnation not only by the laws of the DRC, but also by from a moral standpoint.
Just a little important word here, condamnable. So in English we don't really say condemnable. It's a bit of a mouthful, isn't it? So these acts are, I think that we would say, so he says worthy of condemnation, I think Will does, which is a good try. If the word, the best word isn't coming to you, that's good. He's doing your best. Reprehensible is the one you're after. It's a good one to have because you often hear condamnable in French when they're talking about all kinds of acts. So it's reprehensible acts. All right.
Above all, the church should remain neutral, playing its role as a bringer together of people. It should.
Yeah, it's tough that rassembleur, son rôle de rassembleur, bringer together of people. You know exactly. It's one of those cases, isn't it? You know exactly what she means when she says it, but you just can't. You're looking for that English word. It's just on the tip of your tongue. I guess you'd say here we would say as a sort of uniting force. I don't know if there's one word that we could use that would as a uniting force, a unifier maybe.
Make sure that the action of the 24th of February does not ever happen again. Who?
Okay. So the L refers to the church. It must. What can we do here? It must avoid. Okay, monter certains de ses fidèles contre d'autres. So a good word here, a good expression is to pit people against each other. It's a useful phrase to have that you can use. You know, in politics this happens all the time. One group pitting, or politicians pitting various groups against each other. So that's what they're talking, pitting the different groups of worshippers against each other. Les poussant ainsi à s'affronter, pushing them towards confrontation, as happened on the night of 24th of February. What is it? Dans la cour d'une. So it's actually in the courtyard of a parish in Kinshasa. La cour, I think. It's a courtyard. So it must have happened in front of a church, I guess.
Will take responsibility for the actions of these young Catholics coming from antagonistic political parties and causing such a threat in these parishes. President, High Commissioner, ladies.
Yes, entre-tuer is perhaps a bit stronger than causing a threat, basically killing each other. Who will assume responsibility for these young Catholics from the parti politique antagoniste, perhaps opposing political parties, killing each other in front of a church? Let's see if we can get a good strong finish here, the final paragraph.
Gentlemen, what should we do? No, honestly, please do tell us, what should we do? Is there any country which has already authorized a protest march with over 167 starting points without a clear itinerary and managed to perfectly contain it? Please then do tell us what you did. Mr. High Commissioner, please do say, what should we do? Thank you for your attention.
Okay, so that's a pretty good finish, yeah. So she ends with more of these rhetorical questions here, doesn't she? What to do? really sincerely, tell us what to do. You know, qu'un seul pays de mer. Has there been a single country in the world that has authorized marches with over 167 departure points, no precise itinerary or no clear route, and which has perfectly, again, contained the march? It's not a bad effort. It's not a bad run. Policed, again, I'd say, is better. Tell us what to do. What can we do? Please tell us. So it's a good statement, and Will's done a pretty good job there. So I think you've probably learned some useful things there. If I had to think of some takeaways here for Will from his performance, I would say to him, you know, use those acronyms. You're allowed to use those acronyms. Cut, you know, trim away the excess, trim away the stuff that you don't need with these sort of long names, the names of commissions, councils. Once you've given them the full name once, you don't need to repeat. And then some of the other important ideas, then I would also note down, write them down somewhere and remember them. You know, this idea, as I said, of pitting people against each other is a very important one. The idea of policing as a noun is again another very useful one that will come in handy. Human rights defenders, it's good to have that expression noted. Just looking through here. Condolences, have something in mind, have something you can easily just pull out the bag, as it were, when condolences are being delivered. As I say, I like to say our hearts go out to whoever the members of the family, the loved ones. Again, just because for me it's something new that I've sort of learnt myself. Atteinte et violation, violations and abuses, they really go together well, nicely, like bacon and eggs. Violations and abuses. Worshippers, fidèle catholique, that's always a good one to know. The vindicte populaire, scapegoating, I've got to admit, this was the first time I'd ever heard it, so I wouldn't worry about that too much. It doesn't come up that often, I don't think. Oh, there's this word here, c'est condamnable, reprehensible. Make a note of that. So that one will come in very handy. And I think that's pretty much it. Okay, well, I hope what we've done here is been of some benefit to you, to anyone watching, anyone apart from Will watching. Maybe someone will. So that's it. That brings to an end the first ever episode of the Interpretation Station. As with any good YouTube channel, I need to think of a good slogan, a good line to end with. I was toying with the idea of something like take the language train, tickets are free when you ride to the interpretation station. Oh yeah, and what do they always do? You gotta give me a thumbs up, smash the thumbs up button, and a subscribe so you can get updates when I upload more of this material, which hopefully I will after this one. So I think this is number 1. So I hope it was useful for you all. And with that, signing out. Goodbye.